And like your employees, of course, you know, it is you as a leader and as a chef must have a sense of humor. If you don't find, the worst part of your job funny, at least in retrospect, after a couple of beers, you don't belong in the restaurant business.
Welcome to Turn and Burn, where restaurant leaders and restaurant lifers share insider war stories. And my co host Fred and I will bring our signature North South flair to industry challenges and survival hacks.
Hey, I'm Fred Gordon. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I am a former general manager turned restaurant consultant. I have over 20 years plus in the industry with tons of operation, restaurant management experience, staff, and management training.
And I'm Sarah Williams. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. I've supported restaurants and chefs as a management consultant and business analyst for about 15 years. In my youth, I worked as a garde manger and fine dining as well, and a few minor front of house roles. Today, we're talking to Matt, who's based in Chicago and has a wealth of experience and great stories to tell. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you guys. Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah.
So why don't we start, Matt? Just like give us a little bit of background in why the restaurant industry and kind of the time that you've spent over the past few years, where you've worked, that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool. So like you said, I'm from Chicago, near suburbs. My grandmother was, in and out of the kitchen my entire life. She had a catering company based out of our basement. Not ours, her actually, in Berwyn, which was very cool growing up. Like, didn't really understand what I was looking at. Ovens in the basement, super hot, tons of old women making cookies. My dad was actually like the delivery guy that would drive the cookies around like Christmas time, Thanksgiving, and whatnot. So I grew up just like with a Czech grandmother that was just baking, cooking, catering. Didn't at all think I would end up in a kitchen. That was like the last thing I wanted to do. Um, Went to culinary school young, like right out of high school, dropped out of high school, kind of knew I was going to do it, kind of made sense. But to lead up to that was this place called the Spaghetti Bowl in Western Springs. I don't know. Shout out the Spaghetti Bowl guys. Anyone who's ever been there. But Western Springs had this small little Italian spot that's right off the tracks that was called the Spaghetti Bowl, and it was like a two-story house. The top floor had just one room. There was a bathroom in the first floor, which was just an old kitchen and a living room converted to like a pizza place. Had huge two deck ovens, super huge, no ventilation. We're wearing shorts, like white tees, covered in sweat and like Gatorade. Super fun place to work. But that was like the introduction, just to be like, so wait, we're allowed to do this like back here while we're cooking. Like it turned into like a club kind of feel. Like I can't wait to get back to work. The antics that's gonna go on, and that was just high school. So I thought that's what restaurants were like. Why would I want to get into that? Like that's just being a goofball. Get into high school, get out of high school. That was kind of like the first thing I thought about doing. Like I'll just go to culinary school, see if I like it, see if I like the feel. And then I come back to Chicago. My first gig, I was actually a waiter. I say it with a little bit of disdain because, coming from the back of the house, you don't really want to say you started as a waiter or a wait staff or bar back or anything like that. But I loved it. I loved getting my head into it. It was this bar that was like right near this casino, right off the highway. It was called the Brutzi's. I think it's gone now. But that place was chaotic. I was a cocktailer as a man. So that was like kind of like my first intro into the restaurant. Like a bigger restaurant, kind of something that's, doing money where it wasn't just pizzas and stuff, right? To like learn how to talk to people in public and go and present a bottle of wine to someone. I'm 20 years old. I don't even care about wine. Like, and I'm trying to, I'm like, this is whatever, it's $80, so I get through that little stint, and this is actually a funnier story. I get to this restaurant that's near me that's looking for wait staff that's opening up. It's called Nixon's, another place that's also gone. That was in LaGrange. Nixon's was run by a couple of like Catholic guys. They were really cool. I knew them from this Catholic school growing up, so it was ironic. Later, they opened up a restaurant downtown LaGrange, pretty busy. I ended up meeting my wife there, who now I've been with for, close to 13 years. But we were both wait staff, both front of the house. Um, Super fun working there. But there was one day, this is where it all started. I thought I was going to be a waiter and just kind of bite the bullet and just, gather money and do whatever. But one day, three of their cooks walk out, their dishwasher walks out. They got one kid named Ryan who's trying to kill it back there. And I gave him all the respect in the world to do it. And I was like, fuck it, Nick, I'll help out, dude. I'll help out. And I'm not bad at cooking. So like I crushed it. Like we killed it. We knocked out his Friday night. We had like a couple hundred covers. We also washed the dishes the whole night. And at the end of the night, he's like, dude, you sucked as a waiter anyways. You are not going back out on that floor. And then that was kind of it. Like I was like, shit, all right, I'm gonna work this kitchen here. So I did that for a couple months, and then a bigger name restaurant that my dad had like always talked about growing up. This was like the best place to go. It's based out of downtown, and they opened one up in Oak Brook in the suburbs. And he's just like, this is where all the celebrities go to. It's like it's an Italian style steakhouse. It's been around for 30 years, 40 years, and one opened up in Oak Brook at the mall. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see if I can get into a bigger kitchen. And I get to this like the mass hiring or interview thing, and it's at this hotel, and there's a line like 1,000+ people like down the street, and I'm like, my experience is Nixon's and like culinary school and this pizza place where we used to get stoned in the basement at. Like this is not gonna work out. So I'm in line, and finally after like 1,000 people get through, I'm in there for like 3.5 hours. We get into this room, and I see the corporate exec, and I now know is the corporate exec, good friend of mine. His name's Randy. So he's there and he's doing my interview. And the first thing he says is like, how do you cook a medium rare steak? Or how do you know to cook a steak? And I was like, well, I mean, doesn't it depend on like the cut and like if there's a bone and stuff? And he's like, great answer. Get in that line. And I was like, what? Like, that's it? And he's like, yeah, good answer. And then the second interview came, and then he sat and chatted with me. He's like, do you know how many people I cut out of line just by answering that? Everyone gives me the thumb finger test. They give me minutes. They go, 3 minutes on one side. It's like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. So that helped out a lot. And then that was like kind of my first step into like what was the rest of my life, was this place that kind of gave me the props to become a sous chef after a year. I was like one of the youngest sous they ever had. Went downtown. They used to call the restaurant the Beast, because it's actually 3 restaurants. It's one on one side of Rush Street, one on the other side of Rush Street. It's in the Viagra Triangle. They're connected, and then up top there's a PDR. It's connected, and it's the Beast. It's crazy. They did like 30 million a year, and I was like 20 years old, and I'm like, all right, so this is a restaurant. This is Chicago. This is what has to be the top tier. You learn that the places like, that are 24-hour buildings that are like, how do you manage a building that's closing at 2 a.m, that's opening at 6 a.m, that there's just, it never closes the doors. It's 24 hours. And I just thought that was like one of the coolest places to kind of start, learn, train. I did that for like, I think 4.5, 5 years, but jumped around different restaurants within the company. But it was a turn and burn. It was a turn and burn. It was a steakhouse. I mean, it's how many asses you can get in the seats. How many people can you get there? It's like in like Goodfellas, when they're like lifting up tables and shoving people out of the way and putting a table down. It's like, if you can get a table in, like you're making money. Like every ass is at least $100. So you would have tickets. I mean, we didn't even have electronic ticket systems, and this was 2015. Like it was still handwritten from like the 80s, where you had a guy come in and you got a Bain Marie next to you, and he would come in and they would just throw the ticket down. Next guy would throw a ticket down. Before you know it, you're like, oh my God, you guys have been selling? And like I got a stack, and I throw it to the guy in front. I'm like, good luck. But that's kind of like the first where I started and kind of where I like ended to start off again. So then I did that kind of higher end, bigger volume stuff for like, maybe the last 15 years. It's all I've done.
Man, I appreciate the turn and burn shout out, man. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool. You
yeah,
kind of added that in there. So I appreciate that. But listen, it's two things that you mentioned, and I wish there was a statistic on this, because honestly, I think I stumbled into the restaurant industry as well, right? No one plans to jump in.
yeah.
It just happens. So I would wonder what the statistics would be on a percentage of people who actually said, I want to be a restaurant, something, right? And I wonder what that would look like. And then second, a lot of people in this industry meet their significant other. It's crazy how that happens, man. But
Yeah,
Anyway,
super true.
look, so Matt, listen, give me, obviously you and I, similar backgrounds, and we could probably talk for days about different stories, but I want to hear your craziest freaking story, dude. Something that just, I mean, I have a few, trust me, I do, and one day we'll get to them. But dude, blow us away by one of the craziest, I mean, silliest shit you've ever seen in a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so one which is gonna be just easy to come off the top of the head because it was like my life. It was called Bascule. It was basically it was a restaurant that was based in Little Italy, which is right off like Ashland. It's kind of like the southwest side. It's not really downtown or anything, but huge Italian culture, huge. Um, I want to say like older clientele, good money, and we started a spot. Well, I wouldn't say we, but I was hired as the exec sous. But it was considerably going to be like a high end wine bar. Going to do a lot of Eastern European wines and like Slovakian wines. And they brought this Sam over from Acadia, two star Michelin restaurant. Acadia is now done. And they bring us in. We got another chef that's from I want to say the name, but I can't. A couple other chefs that are from one of the restaurants I had worked for downtown. They come in, they all kind of band their money together. Lots of great talent, lots of great ideas. Small spot. I think it's a Bocce's Pizza now, but I mean, it started off like awesome, killer. We had a killer menu. I mean, to attest to our menu, like at the end after a year, we had a bib gourmand. We had a recommendation for a bib, but then like a week later we closed. So we had a killer menu, we had a great thing going. But I think my favorite story of that was Italian Fest. And there's only like three people that could even attest to Italian Fest, minus the other two, but they were so gone that you can't even imagine. So Italian Fest was a 3-day fest. Italian Street kind of closes down. You got to have 3-4 items on. You set up a little kiosk in front of your restaurant. They close down the streets, and it's nuts. It's 5 to 10,000 people a day. You sell 3 $5 items, $7 items. They were doing pizzas down one side and sandwiches in the other. So we were doing 3 items, 4 guys, and I mean we're doing 2,000, 3,000 Italian sausage corn dogs every morning. Like we're getting up at 5:30 in the morning. We're getting to work at 6. We open at 9. One guy's there already at 5. I'm getting there like early. We're making arancinis. We're making this potato salad with crawfish in it. So we had all of it kind of mostly prepped, but we didn't realize we were going to run through 2 to 3,000 each day, getting our asses kicked. Now, the management on the other end, we'd think would step up and like put their hands in, but if anyone's listening out there, even the word management, any situation like this is unmanageable. Right away, alcohol pops, 6 a.m. Hey, Bloody Marys, like, get the fuck out of here. We got arancinis. We're literally rolling this stuff to make you money. Homie's like, hey, let's eat some mushrooms. I'm like, it's 8 in the morning. How are you going to start off the day with mushrooms and be my guy? The other one's doing lines of blow in the bathroom. The other one's popping liquor. I'm like, oh, fuck, we're fucked. So I had to call my wife to come help me. I had to have my wife come at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Shit hits the fan. We're selling out the ass. They have no way to even tell us to make food. We're like, how many arancinis do you guys need? They're like, what? Like, who are these people in front of you standing here waiting? Like, oh, yeah. How many did you want, guy? I have all of them in front of me, so it's fine. So I've got to like hand it over. But the funniest is they can't even count the money. You got someone coming up, this poor guy, Jason. He's so high on mushrooms. His eyes are so dilated. He's been hugging this bottle of wine that he was supposed to give away the whole time just for like support. Like just he needed to hold this bottle of wine the whole time. And people are asking him like, okay, how long on this? And he's like, how much was it? Oh, it was $8. Wait, 8. And how many did you have? Well, I had 2 orders of meatballs. Okay, so that's 12. Wait, or is it 15? And he's sitting there and he's just sitting there frozen. And I'm like, okay, guy, it's $21, 21, reaching over him, taking the 20, putting it in, handing the food around him, and he's just spinning, looking at the food, looking at the money. And this is 4 o'clock first day. The other guy who is his guy, another level 2 or whatever, 2-star Michelin, barback, Sam, whatever you want to call it. He's down the street, shoes off, shirtless, like not even in the vicinity anymore. So we have only one manager left, and it's my wife. And now my wife, who didn't want to be there at all, and my pops and buddy are sitting down watching and eating. She's sitting there counting money, and she's doing this whole thing, just pocketing every other thing. She's taking 20 every other round. I'm like, yo, just keep pocketing. Grab 10, grab 20. We're selling this now. We're running the show. So this is like the first fucking day. Day 2, the same. Day 2, now he goes, I need my Coke dealer to be in the restaurant with me. Like I can't be doing this without this guy around. I'm like, just don't eat mushrooms again. It's like, all right, I won't eat mushrooms. And that was it. It was 3 days of just basically babysitting, watching. We killed it though. Me and my guy, shout out to Josh, shout out to Carnell, shout out to Justin. We killed it each day. I'm talking 6 a.m. to midnight, 6 a.m. to midnight, 6 a.m. to midnight. And I mean, we served like 20,000 people around our management's, debauchery. But I mean, this is just it's too much to even comprehend when it's day 3 and you feel like you have like shell shock. Like you don't even know what's going on anymore. You feel like you have that thousand yard stare, like you've seen brothers die and stuff, and you're just still working. You're just trying to get it through.
It's amazing that, and people that aren't in this industry, they don't realize the grind that it takes. You mentioned 5 o'clock a.m., right? 2000. I mean, those are numbers that people put out there. And if you don't do that at, walking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you got to get started at 5 a.m.
Well, certainly
Yeah,
not
for
on
real.
mushrooms. No, dude.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That didn't help.
You don't do much on mushrooms, right? At 5 or at 9,
Except
right?
fall
Like,
apart. Yeah.
No, they made like raise the level of challenge at that point for themselves,
and I want to
But like, what hustle?
Yeah, I want to say, like, everyone's been there and everyone's done their little bit behind the lines and, kind of gone a little wonky or sideways. But I feel like the festivals is what breeds that all out of us, because there's this thing in a festival that goes, hey, man, I'm allowed to have a beer underneath me. I don't care if you're my manager or my boss. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to eat mushrooms today. It's a festival. Like, it just changes the whole game, the whole scene. No longer paying customers. Now like, all the responsibility and insurance goes on the venues and like the people that are letting us do this. It's like, hey man, you let us sell wine slushies to people for $1. This is what happens now.
That story is, again, it's just like indicative of exactly what we're trying to talk about on this podcast, which is like, not just the hard work, right, and the commitment that you have to make and the skill that you have to just do that, right, to literally like pull that together for 3 days straight, but also like the sense of humor and the ability to like just look at this and say pragmatically, like, okay, this is my reality for the day, right? This is exactly what my reality is going to be today, and so I'm just going to, yeah, exactly, right. I'm just going to like, right in this moment come up with some like crazy game plan to match this crazy set of circumstances. And I don't think, again, we've talked about this, so many times, like, I don't think there are that many industries where that is the case on a regular basis, but it seems like, there's something about the restaurant industry where it's almost like, I don't know, maybe you guys just go looking for it. I don't know. Right?
So,
but it's like, it's just this set of circumstances that there's no way to predict it. And yet somehow you guys survive it, which I think is really kind of incredible. Right?
Well, Sarah, I think too, it takes a special person, right, man?
Yeah.
You have to be wired differently,
It's almost like a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
mean, it's almost like we're not all the way there already, right?
The word industry to me doesn't necessarily just mean a restaurant. Like when I'm getting a tattoo, I feel like the person who I'm talking to is literally a chef. Like, it sucks dealing with these people, but the art of what you're doing is what's worth it. Like, nobody likes to fucking cook for 1,000 people, but that each plate you put out, if you could at least get a smile out of each person, it's like, I did 800 pieces of art, all fucking like perfect. Like that was the whole point.
Yeah.
Like it was a challenge to myself. Like, I don't think I can do this. I'm too hungover. I don't know if it's going to work out. And then you walk out going like, yes, like I knew I could do it. I should have never doubted myself. I love this shit. It's like you want to get your ass kicked to then rise up and see what's up. Like if you knew you're going to, I don't know how Michelin does it when we have exactly 80 people coming in tonight. We have 4 allergies at table this guy doesn't want this person's, it's like, exactly what's going to happen. So like that's why they're probably the biggest drug addict alcoholics out there, because they have to make their boring, meaningless like lives kind of exciting, because they already know what's going to happen. Like, yeah, you're working 15-hour days, but you're doing it the same way every day. I mean, That's why I think most of us like to bounce around in the city. Like, if you find people that'll work the same job for like 10 plus years in the same restaurant, they're kind of got a screw loose. The rest
Yep.
of us are just like, we're just want to keep bouncing and moving and learning
Hmm.
and grooving. It's like we feel like rock stars in a sense. Like, I want to hit different cities, different venues. It's all about just doing new audience all the time. New audience, new audience.
Yeah, for sure. And so I know that you have another story that you wanted to tell, like as a follow up. I mean, I don't know if you can beat that one.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a restaurant downtown. It's actually right in same area, Viagra Triangle. I don't know if people in other states. I don't know if Viagra Triangle is a common word for this area in Chicago, but it's basically where all of like the older clientele that kind of dye their hair and wear toupees and they drive nice cars because they've hit some shortcomings in their life. And I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just like a little dick syndrome out there, and everyone has to have like that we're going to spend it and show off kind of mentality. And that's the Viagra Triangle. So I worked at 4 restaurants in this little area, each one killer. Like the one I said, the Beast, they're doing 30 million a year. I mean, they've tapered off a little bit because they've opened up a bunch more. The other one was a breakfast spot right next to the original House of Pancakes, which is like the shit. Right next to that was like this awesome breakfast spot, like 10 million a year. And then this other spot opens up, which when it opened up, I had an opportunity to go there when it opened. And I was like, nah, nothing's going to top these places in this area. How the hell is this going to make a dent? It not only made a dent, it splashed. They're doing 800 every solid night, like regardless of what's going on. It's like the highest end steakhouse you can get, like the highest, biggest bottles of bourbon, the biggest bottles of wine, like steaks that are $3,600, $5,000 for a steak. But they're massive. It's not like some little A5 or like A10, like Imperial Wagyu. It's like, well, it is A5, but it's like the slab. It's like a huge chunk of like the spinalis. They peel off the like the ribeye cap, They'll take that thing. There's only 2 of them in house. They'll go around. They'll sell both of them like quickly. So they're super high end. They can sell anything there to the point where, I mean, they're really into celebrities. They're really into showing off. And I lasted there a year, and I literally quit because of the consumption at this place. Like I was getting so into it and so kind of just like loosey goosey that I mean I was cut off a few times from my own bartenders, not because I was too drunk, just because like, hey man, you drank an entire bottle of whiskey. We gotta switch to tequila now or something else because I can't give you another bottle. And I'm like, really? Shit. I mean, I have been drinking since 3. It is midnight now. All right, fine. And this isn't even like, I mean, this is just normal every night. This is typical. I mean, we're closing down at 9 o'clock. A bunch of good pictures of this, but at 9 o'clock, you literally see the keys fly from the expo to some cook on the line that's chilling. And then the guy goes upstairs, grabs like 3, 4 cases of Modelo that the restaurant buys only for the kitchen. These cases of Modelo go out in a huge Cambros on ice, and they sit there for at least a half hour. The second everyone starts cleaning at like 10, 10:30, start cracking. Now, this is the only restaurant I've ever seen in my life where management leaves and cooks are still there. Like, so I'm a sous chef and I'm like, shit, there's a bartender, there's another manager upstairs, like doing his checkout. And then there's like 19 line cooks and dishwashers, and everyone's just drinking. No problem. Barbacks, bartenders still pouring drinks to the dishwashers, whatever. People are starting to smoke cigarettes, starting to smoke weed. No big deal. And this is like the highest end, highest, like, I mean, I guess highest end, like most money coming into a place kind of restaurant, but it was just ran off debauchery. So like I'd be standing at the end of the night, and if like it turns into a nightclub basically at 1 in the morning. There's just loud music. There's hundreds of people walking around. We're used to have tables, and I'm standing there doing like my night closes out, whatever. And some guy would be like, "Hey, let me get some caviar." Like, what? No, we're closed. And you see $200 come out. Like, all right, how much caviar do you want? And you go grab a bowl of chips and some caviar. There you go. Another guy, like this hat that's behind me, the IDGAF hat, that'll definitely tell you where the fucking place is from. So that hat right there, one of my sous chefs, sweaty. He's been wearing it for like a year and a half. It's disgusting. There's like cheese growing on it. The guy's like, I'll give you $100 for that hat. Instantly gives it to the guy. This poor guy probably woke up the next day with like acne, like all over his forehead, whatever. Disgusting. Here's where we get to the story. A lot of celebrities would come in. A lot, like, I mean, rappers, whole basketball teams, like entire basketball teams, and we're letting them smoke cigars at the table. We don't give a fuck. YouTubers that are millionaires, like stupid people that have those cams up in the restaurant and they're sitting there and talking to, but they're putting 5 grand on the table going, this is why I can do this. Fine. Um, so one of the somebody in Marvel, one of the Avengers is there. The worst one, the dorkiest one. He's sitting down, talking to the managers because he's eating there, and the managers want to sit down. They want to stroke him a little bit and try to just like, hey, I talked to an Avenger, whoever. And he's talking about how shitty the restaurant is and how much better he can do. And we're all hearing this, like, dude, you're stroking this guy off over here, and he's talking shit just because he's like a celebrity. Fuck him. He's probably not even spending any money. Probably some PR company spending the money for him. And we're hearing this, and we're letting him go. And then finally, we see him leave, go up the back stairs to the chef's office, which, I mean, we just know it gets powdered up in there. The chef's office is the powder room. And we see him go up the stairs, and I'm like, oh my God, this fucking guy is going to go up and basically just have fun with our managers. Like, no big deal. It's just like the lack of like policing and care and the law. There's no law. Like during the pandemic, they were still open. Nobody knew they were still open. The only reason they knew is because the concierge and like the maitre d' and like the other managers would let all these super rich people know that they're still open, and you would just walk in, lights are off, straight up, no masks, whatever, party all night, walk out back door, alley. Like it was like Vegas. I mean, always, every night. I had to quit the place because I didn't see my family anymore. It was insane. But yeah.
How do we top that one?
Matt has once again outdone himself. I want to shift gears, and thank you for not mentioning who the Avenger was, but giving enough
Yes.
hints and clues that if somebody had an opinion, they might be able to figure out who the Avenger was. So I want to shift gears a little bit because now you left these restaurant environments, right? And now you are talking about doing your own thing. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that a little bit and tell us like kind of how you made that choice and what it is that you're thinking about doing.
Cool. Yeah. So like that last little bit was probably that was 2.5 years ago, and before that, I was at another steakhouse, which is great. I loved it. I like the brand a lot. It's right across the street from the new Chicago casino that just opened. So I'll give you an idea of kind of where it's at. But I met a lot of great people there, and I met this homie named Zomar, who is a line cook there, and he hooked me up with this guy who was selling food trucks through the Chicago Tribune, or not food trucks, just trucks, box trucks. So I see that he's got this box trucks through the Chicago Tribune because they were closing down, selling all these trucks for like 5 grand, 6 grand, 4 grand, and these things are like 30 grand, 40 grand, even at their 150,000 mile mark. So I was like, oh my God, you're so lucky, dude. Look at you. You can just go and buy a truck. So he sells his pickup truck. He buys this food truck, or this truck, turns it into a food truck. And within like 3 months, he's making like 10 grand a month. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, he has a really, really good setup. He's in kind of an unlicensable area. You can kind of just park your truck in this kind of little backyard, and there's too many other things going on in the area to worry about this guy selling tacos there. So he does a Facebook marketplace, and I mean, every day he's got 20 to 30 people just buying some ceviche with chips or buying like a couple of tacos, and you go in there and there's just like a Weber grill and like a little flat top in there and like a little fridge, and that's all he does. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous of this guy. I got to get in on this. So this other homie that works at the restaurant, his name's Wayne. We decided to partner up and like buy a truck. Another guy, Mike, decided to partner up and get a truck. And it's been a few years now. I mean, it started off great. We were going hot. And then one homie just kind of gave up and stopped working and shit. Now the burden's on both of us to build a truck, and we started with just a truck, nothing else. So this other guy had all of his outlets. Like, we don't know where to even start. Should we diamond plate ourselves? Should we tear this up ourselves? I don't know what to do. So we had to source. We sourced through my friend. He ended up getting us great deals to get the thing up and going. But then it's like, all right, now the other guy and me, we're like, all right, pandemic hits. So we're like, shit. Well, now he's not working at all. He's now going on vacation because the government's giving him $1,200 a week, and I'm over here working my ass off for the place, still doing to-go orders. Fuckers buying shit with fake credit cards, leaving the food out in front, and that's me for like a year and a half. So he's getting to go on vacation. I had to wait for him to come back, but then I left, And then I went to a different place, and now we started over again. I'm like, all right, let me start building some capital. Then we'll talk about, fitting the truck out and getting that going. We just started going. We started getting, it's diamond plated now. We got the hoods put in, we got the gas lines, we get the electric. We just bought a really sweet generator. Next is just a couple pieces of equipment, maybe like a fridge, a flat top, maybe a salamander. So our brand is Shy Guys. Uh, Shy Guys, CHI, obviously, guys. But if you guys are familiar with like Nintendo or Mario, there's a character named Shy Guy. He wears a red hood, white mask. Basically, that's going to be like kind of like our little logo. We're going to do like an arcade theme, like neon style. I really want kids involved. I want it to be like super approachable by parents. I want it to be like, you know, the dad doesn't care anymore. Like when it's a food truck, like he doesn't want to be wowed by some funnel cake burger while his kid is just like also trying to eat this dumb shit. Like he just wants whatever's in his hands got to be quick so he could watch his kids eat. So I want it all to be just simple, easy in boxes. I want it to be geared towards kids. I live right across from a school. Nothing weird about that. But I want the parents money. So the goal is to just kind of get some Chicago-based fusion restaurant. My buddy, he's Chinese, so he's got tons of awesome ideas and recipes. His grandma is supposedly a killer cook, so we want to do like a cool, like Asian Chicago style, like stoner fusion, and I want it to be like arcade themed. And we're really close. We got like a couple grand. We just got to buy some equipment, get it wrapped up, and basically just start off, see what happens. Just throw the truck at the end of the driveway, put a neon sign out that says open. Obviously I have to grease like the local authorities and grease my neighbors for like the noise and the smell of steaks or whatever I'm grilling. But then hopefully it's up, and then I don't have a restaurant.
The other thing is too that you are a dad, right? So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is a demographic that you
Yeah.
100% understand, right?
Oh yeah.
And and like so, it's not just you, yeah, sitting across in from a school in your truck trying to lure children over to the truck. Right?
True. Thanks for
You're
clarifying
actually a
that. Yeah.
dad.
Should have started
Yeah,
there.
yeah. No, I want to make sure people understand. Yeah, no, that like, and honestly, like that is one of the things that I was hoping was going to come out when we talked to you is like that despite the colorful stories that you're telling, that like you, like a lot of guys in the industry and like Fred, you have kids, right? You have a family, you have like a stable home life outside of, all this kind of chaos, where you've created like a unit for yourself where, where there's some codependency there, where you have to be responsible and accountable. But I also love that that's part of the concept of the truck, right? Is that it's speaking very much to your own demographic, with the video game stuff and the dad with the kids and the whole thing. I just think, from a marketing standpoint, it's super smart and just makes absolute sense. So
You're right, Sarah. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think you have a great concept. I like the logo and the location, man. I think you're onto something, man. So definitely good luck with that. I think you're gonna kill it for sure.
No, I appreciate it. I really do. I mean, I never thought growing up, I never thought I was gonna have kids, and then you work in restaurants and stuff, and you go, "Shit, if this is my life, you can't possibly." And then you realize it's like a parachute. You're like, "Oh my god!" Like I was going fast. I was going really fast. Like, yeah, I can stay late. Yeah, I'll come in early. Like
mm-hmm.
now, it's like, no, 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 10 hours, man. Like I'm getting out of here. Like I'm not doing 12, 14. Like you figure it out. Like I have things to do when I get home. And I'm not saying like my wife's a super mom. Like I got twin girls that are under 3. They're turning 4 July, so they're 3.5. And then I got a newborn boy. Well, not so newborn. He's like almost 2. So we had him like bam, 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 super quick,
Mm-hmm.
and it was easy for me because I'm still doing 12-hour shifts. Like I'm there at work, and then it cut to 10, and then I was at this place. I had an opportunity to start opening, which I love opening restaurants. I'm there at 5:30 in the morning. I'm out by 3:30, maybe 4 at latest. I'm home. I got the whole day. You're in bed at 8. You can still have some beers, watch TV. Perfect. But I was on the night shift forever. So now I had the opportunity, like, hey, I got kids, man. And then it puts all this like back in perspective, like, oh, maybe I won't stay up just watching TV and eating late night bullshit food. And you feel like you're getting old, but it's not even more responsible. It's just you're doing things how you would actually want to do it if there wasn't all of these like, I don't know, carrots dangling in front of you, like, ooh, another beer, ooh, a joint, ooh, a pretty girl. Like all these people that want to go out and do dumb shit, it's because there's flashing lights in front of them at all times. But it's like it's 4 o'clock. There ain't shit, like nothing. Like there's nobody wanting to drink. Everyone's like, get out of my way. I got to get home. Like there's business going on. So then you go to bed business, you wake up business. But the other end, it's like people want to party at restaurants at night, so you have to want to party with them, or else what are you doing? Are you crazy? Like there's always that one server. There's this server at this restaurant that I was saying. Um, she was so straight edge at work, ponytail, like suit jacket, like the most perfect person, drinking tea and like eating salad with avocado that she brought into work with her, super serious, never had an issue with a ticket. And then she leaves right away. And I'm like, man, this chick's killing it. Because this guy over here is so hungover. He was out all night. He lost $500 at the casino. He's got a vial of Coke in his pocket right now. His pants are disgusting and dirty. He hasn't washed them in days. Like, that's the life. Like, this she's killing it because she's doing it the right way. But I'm the person that wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I'm serving this guy a $4,000 steak, and he's tipping me $200, and he's throwing money around. He's got pretty girls next to him. It's like, and I'm just gonna go home and then watch TV all morning or like work out. Like, it just doesn't work. It's impossible. No, you're gonna go out and spend some of that money and try to live vicariously through that guy you just served that pissed you off, and you got to let loose a little bit. I don't know. It depends on who the person is a lot, where they're at a lot. If they thought about doing this their whole life, or if they adapted into it, because like you guys said, the people that just choose this life, it's like I don't think you really choose it.
I think there's definitely, again, it's a level of commitment, but it's also a level of commitment to a little bit of chaos. And
Yeah.
like I love the analogy or the comment that you made about being able to bounce around to different things. And even though you're now going to be doing your own thing, it's still a mobile concept, right? So you can be in your driveway, or you can be in the neighborhood, but you could also be somewhere else, doing
Oh
it,
yeah,
right, in the
absolutely.
city or whatever.
I told Matt he's going to kill it, man. I like everything about it, so you're good to go.
Yeah, do you have any
Yeah.
questions for us, like in terms of what all you have going on right now with the truck that you think we might be able to offer you some insight on?
I mean, I know I don't have Facebook. I don't use Twitter. I am not that guy. I don't have time for any of that shit. I know it's super important, but like I feel like we're on this
Yeah.
weird age of like the influencers and maybe like the bloggers and like that. Like I love it, but I feel like I can pay and fake it. Like I feel like it'd be dumb to even use any of these platforms and their outlets and stuff, and instead just be my own influencer and just make my own stupid page and not spend any dimes on anything. But I also feel like I'm not gonna have a follower. I'd have to go beg for it. So like, I don't know how worth it is to like, who do I got to give money to? Like who do I got to grease to get all these people to look at my stupid food right now? That's the
No,
hardest. That's
I
the hardest
think.
part. Like everyone's doing this food, but who do I have to pay to make them come to me
Yeah.
instead of other people? I want to be at the top of their list when it says food around you.
I mean, I hear you, Matt, but I think, and Sarah can definitely attest to this better than I can. But I think I would set aside a budget for marketing, and you don't have to blow it out
No,
crazy,
no, for
but you
sure. I know I
definitely
need
want to.
it.
And yeah, you have a location checked already. I think you're good there, but you still want to reach out to those that are outside. The more, the better, right? And so I'll yield to Sarah because she has more insight with marketing than I do. But you definitely want to set aside a budget, I would think, for some sort of marketing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, you are completely in good company when you say that, like, you don't even have time for that stuff. You don't engage with it yourself. Like, most chefs and business owners, restaurant owners that I work with, they're the same. So they pay people like me to do it, right? But really, all that people want to see is what in the industry is called food porn, right? That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
all they want to see. And so, it's just you taking a video of making sandwiches or making, whatever, right? It's you, like, taking a picture of a finished thing that's like exploding out of somebody's hand, right? They're also, you can work with influencers that are especially local influencers, right? They're called micro influencers, which is about as stupid as it sounds. But what it means is that they don't get paid, right? They just, like, and so you can reach out to them, like Susie has 7,800 followers who love all of her food videos that she does, and she makes reels, and she comes to your truck, she eats for free, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and so
Yep.
you cook her something, and then she makes a reel, and she puts the reel out there, and she tags your Instagram or your whatever, right, TikTok, whatever platforms you decide to be on, and and really Susie is a whore for a free meal. That's what she's doing all over town. She's just getting free
Aren't we
meals and
all?
making videos. Yeah, no, for right. And so like that's you can find micro influencers that will, that's really all they're looking to do is they love making content and you love making food, right? So, it's just a matter of, and a lot of those people will reach out to you, but in order for them to find you, you do have to start to create, some kind of a platform. However,
Yeah.
the one of the like Fred said, one of the exciting things about the location that you've chosen is that you're banking almost entirely on word of mouth and foot traffic and and people within that vicinity of the businesses that are around and that sort of thing. However, because you're mobile, right, you could potentially reach out to businesses that are just outside that and say, hey, let me come and cater your picnic that your company is holding, right, like, or let me partner with these other businesses and do like a little 2-hour thing in the afternoon at some parking lot, right, like,
Yeah,
so
100%.
you have the ability to move around, take pictures, tag other accounts,
Mm-hmm.
build a community, which makes it a little bit easier to do this, to be honest, because it really is a grind and it's not fun. And and it's probably if I'm being totally honest, the least favorite part of the communication side of what I do for restaurants, because it's just it's so easy for people to just hit like. That doesn't necessarily make them customers, right?
Yeah.
And all restaurant owners really care about is dollars. They want things to convert, right? The thing is, social media is like innately sort of dumb, right? And you're a smart guy, and so you don't want to engage with something dumb and waste your time. If you build like sort of a strategy around it, like a local outreach sort of community building strategy, I think the truck business will grow, right? And I think that your Instagram and other social channels will grow naturally as well. The other piece of that, of course, is that you want to get exposure and maybe even get like media mentions, or like get put up on websites and blogs that are like foodie blogs like Eater and all those kinds of things. If they do a food truck feature,
Yeah,
you'd
Eater's
love it. So you
huge.
have to kind of
Yeah.
get yourself out there, right? Yeah, so like that's the other sort of intended consequence of having a decent, or at least an active social media platform, right?
But like you said earlier, it's a numbers game, butts and seats, right? Same thing for your concept. You just want to reach as many people as you can, honestly, and that percentage is going to make you successful. So, 100%, man, do something with it. Yeah,
Oh, for
just
sure.
like
I
Sarah
think
said.
I think the hardest
Yeah.
thing is also your entire life you're working for somebody. You're in somebody's weird list lineup of rosters. You're like a pitcher. This guy's getting paid too much, move him down, or this guy, we want to move him up and make him a starter. Do this, and you're thinking about so many other things that have nothing to do with running the business. You're more like a janitor, a nanny, a babysitter. I mean, sometimes I find myself like surrounded by broken plates and garbage cans, but then I'm stepping over a straw or a fork, like, hey, somebody pick this fork up. Like, you don't even see the nonsense because like you're just so tunnel visioned, like, going through
Yeah.
your day. So like stepping back each time. And now it's like, shit, I got to be my own PR. Shit, I got to be my own,
Hmm.
social media guy. And then like food's fine, whatever. I'll change every day. I plan on being open like for free for like the first day, like just sitting there. Anyone who walks past me, like,
Yeah.
hey, what's going on? Like, oh man, I'm trying out a food truck. What do you want? It's free. And just like, because there's a
Mm.
sweet trail where people walk their dogs up and down, and like my neighbors, of course, would be like, hey, come to me this day. Everything's free. I'm trying out a food truck. Come eat for free. I'm gonna do that for at least a week and just blow at least a G and just like lose some money and just give people food. Go to like the Chamber of Commerce or like the city hall or go to the police department. How many
Hmm.
people you guys got here? All right, cool. I'll be back in an hour. Here's my food truck. Come by, never ticket at me, and you'll always get a meal. I'm gonna grease the area, so to speak. But it is that learning curve of like, oh yeah, take your phone out. You should be recording this. This looks cool. Like, you look cool doing that. You should probably flip that and
Yeah.
get a picture of it. It's like, what do you mean? I don't give a shit. I'm just making a burger. Like, no, no, no. Someone should be standing next to you, with smoke behind you and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, smoke and mirrors. Like that whole thing of, reeling people in. Like, hey, I make a better, balloon animal than this guy over here. Like, come to my hut. Whatever it is.
You could take like a 15-second video of you, like, just doing something in the truck or just of the truck,
Where you're like ripping
like,
a
I mean,
burger in
just
half and
setting.
squeezing it.
Yeah,
People are
they're not
eating
getting
really
sick
up
of it.
close and chewing in front of the camera, and you're like, oh my god, stop, please! It's so gross.
From a strategic planning standpoint, I would say that like either once a quarter, right, or once or like twice a year, right, every 6 months, just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to commit to this, even if it's just I'm going to commit to 2 videos a week, right?
Yeah. Just blast something out.
And right, and like just like make a plan and stick to it, just like you commit to other things that you do in the kitchen in order to get from point A to point B. Marketing, and that's a very, very dirty word. I actually hate that word.
Hmm.
But all of that kind of stuff is like, it's really just the same kind of commitment. And once you get into routine with it, then it'll just be like, okay, I know I have to do this. And then hopefully you will be able to pull in, micro influencers and people who can take those videos for you.
Yeah.
Like then, you're sharing their content to your page and you don't have to be doing so much of the generation. It is kind of a slog to get that follower base at first. It's going to be hard, but you really need foot traffic and like
Oh
word of
yeah, for
mouth
sure.
around
Yep.
you. That's way more important than social. So
And I'll say this, Matt, as well. I mean, you're right. When having your own business, you're right. There's a lot of hats that you're going to wear, right? I promise you it's worth it, though. But what I would do is create routines, man. That's the best way to kind of stay on track with those different hats you're going to be wearing and
Yeah,
different
yeah.
tasks that you got to do. Yeah, I would just get a routine. Every Monday, you're doing this from this time to this time, and you're seeing this person at this time. You're creating this content at that time. And once you do that, and that's your routine every single week, it becomes a norm. And now you're on schedule automatically. And you're not forgetting to put that hat on and miss out on that opportunity for something. So definitely establish a routine. I think that'll definitely help. That's kind of one thing I tell my clients, especially owners, man, because you're being pulled in so many directions. It's hard to stay on track sometimes.
yeah.
So develop a
Agreed.
routine, stick to it, and then when it becomes a habit, man, you'll be in a good spot. But I promise you, it's so worth it.
As you put together your logo and you kind of think about your personality and how you want to infuse your personality not just into the food but into the brand, if you pardon the expression, then you can kind of think about, all right, what, that's kind of like a sexy video. And maybe maybe your content isn't 15 seconds or a minute, maybe it's 8 seconds. Maybe that's all you need, because maybe that's enough because you're busy, you're hustling, like that's your whole kind of vibe, right? And so just stay true to yourself too. Like, don't try to do what everybody else is doing. Like
Yeah.
that's not. It's like, don't try to keep pace with anybody else, because you're like, right now you're too small, and if you try to do that, you're going to burn out, or you're just going to like, you're going to start just leave. You're going to just start letting stuff go.
No, for
like
sure,
you're
for
just
sure.
because you'll get distracted, and and like that's just so natural. I see it all the time. And so yeah, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself, especially if it's an area where you're like, I don't even really like this stuff. Right?
Yeah.
I don't engage with it. I don't care about it. Like it's hard to commit to something like that when you're so passionate about everything
And
else.
the last thing I want to do is like have one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I need a new lawnmower or whatever. You get that new piece of equipment, you use it for like a couple months, and then like something happens or snags, and you're like, I'm not using that shit anymore. I'm buying a service.
Yeah.
And just kind of like you
Yeah, it
never
just
go back
piles
to
up.
it, and then it's
Yeah.
sitting there. Yeah. I want to do like, have you ever had a Monte Cristo? I want to do like egg rolls with like shaved ham, Swiss, and and then I want to fry those and then have like the dippable like raspberry jam or marmalade and have it in like a brown bag with powdered sugar all over it. So it's like kids are eating a
It's pretty
fried
cool.
ham and cheese sandwich. Like, of course, the kid's
Yeah.
gonna love that. And then I was gonna do
Yeah.
my mom used to
Pretty
make
cool.
Captain Crunch chicken, so she would bread chicken and Captain Crunch, and
Yeah.
so
Wow.
have that in like a popcorn box. So do like popcorn, Captain Crunch chicken, squirt like sauce and honey on it, and top it with like waffle cones and Captain Crunch chicken crumbles, and like close it in a box. And like there's a kid like gonna love that shit. But like we're so into the cooking aspect of it. We're so into like, he's front of house, I'm back of the house. But like when it comes to the rest, it's like, yeah, there's a guy they hired to do that PR shit and marketing. Like that's not my problem.
Yeah.
That's, you guys wrote that contract. That's your contract. All I have is 40 pieces of steak. I don't care if you ask for 80. Like it's weird. So now I gotta realize I'm the guy signing the contract. I'm the guy who's selling my own soul over. So it's gonna be a fun learning experience. Hopefully by the end of winter, coming into spring, start planting those seeds and just do that, because no one wants to work a truck in January or February. And people come by and
Not in Chicago, man.
no,
You'll be
yeah,
all right
yeah.
in Houston.
I
but
wouldn't
not in
need any
Chicago.
refrigeration. I wouldn't need any refrigeration. I would just have coolers in the
Right.
truck and just let
True.
the
Good
sits in the
point.
coolers. It's crazy.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is probably a good place to stop, Matt. You have been, as I expected, an incredible guest.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much for sharing those stories with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. And now for the shameless plug. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider buying us a $5 round or becoming a monthly supporter by visiting turnburn.co, selecting support, and clicking the Buy Us a Beer button.
Please also stay tuned for podcast updates by subscribing to our newsletter at turnburn.co and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Turn Burn Show. Thanks again for joining us, and stay out of the weeds.